This first story is from England. Lady Mary was young and Lady Mary was fair, and she had 2 brothers and more lovers than she could count. But of them all, the most gallant and the most brave was a Mr. Fox, whom she'd met when she was down at her father's farm. Now, no one knew who Mr. Fox was, but he surely was handsome, and he certainly was brave, and yes, he was rich. And of all her lovers, Lady Mary decided that he was the one for her. At last it was agreed between them that they would be married, and Lady Mary asked Mr. Fox where they'd live after they were married. And he said, "Well, in my castle, of course. It's just across through the forest, on the other side. It has high walls and deep moat, and we'll be very happy there." But the strange thing was that he never did ask Lady Mary or her brothers to come and visit him there. And so one day, near the wedding day, while her brothers were out hunting and Mr. Fox was away on business, as he said, Lady Mary decided to take off and find it for herself. So, after wandering around a bit in the forest, she got to the other side, and there it was. And when she came up to the gateway, she saw words written over the top. "Be bold, be bold." Well, she pushed herself right through that gate and into the courtyard. But there was no one there. She tethered her pony and continued through the courtyard up to the doorway, when over that doorway she saw more words. "Be bold, but not too bold." So she knocked, but no one answered. And so she pushed open that doorway and went into the hall. Still nobody about, and so she walked through the hallway and to some stairs and up the stairs and down a long gallery, which led to a room, a door at the other end. And over that door were written more words. Be bold, but not too bold, lest that your heart's blood should run cold." Lady Mary was a bold girl, and she opened that door. Oh, and what do you suppose she saw there? Hanging from the rafters but skeletons and bodies of young women, some of them still with blood on their dresses or blood on the floor. It took her no time at all to know she wanted to spend no time there, and she closed the door behind her and ran down the gallery. But at the top of the stairs she happened to look out the window, and there, coming through the gateway toward the doorway, was Mr. Fox, and he was dragging another young woman. Lady Mary darted down the stairs and hid herself behind a cask right by the door, just as Mr. Fox came in. It appeared the young lady had fainted, and Mr. Fox was looking at her hand where he saw a beautiful ruby ring, and he tried to get it off, and he pulled and he tugged, and he cursed and he swore, but he couldn't budge the ring. And so out came his sword, and whick, whack, he cut the hand off, and it went flying through the air, and where should it land but Lady Mary's lap? Well, he had no time to look then. He had other business about him, and he dragged the young woman down through the hallway and up those stairs and down the gallery toward the bloody chamber. As soon as she could, she darted out from behind that cask, went through the door, found her pony, and took it home as fast as she could. The next day, that was to be the wedding day, and there was a wedding breakfast, and Mr. Fox was already there, waiting. When Lady Mary came in, he stood. "My dear, you are pale this morning. Are you nervous?" "Oh, Mr. Fox," she said, "I had a terrible night. I hardly slept at all. I had such awful dreams." "Dreams are but the contraries of life, my dear. Perhaps you're nervous. Tell us what you dreamed, and it will help while away the hours until the sweet ceremony." "Oh, Mr. Fox, I dreamed yestermorn that I went off to find your castle. And I did, and when I got to the gateway, Mr. Fox, I dreamed I saw words over that, saying, 'Be bold, be bold.'" "Well, it is not so, it was not so," said Mr. Fox. "And then, Mr. Fox, I dreamed that I pushed the gate in, went through this long courtyard, and at the entryway I read more words. 'Be bold, but not too bold.'" "It is not so, it was not so," said Mr. Fox. "Then I dreamed that I went in through the door, and through a long hallway, and up some stairs, and down a gallery till I got to a door at the other end, and there were more words written there. 'Be bold, but not too bold, lest that your heart's blood should run cold,' Mr. Fox." "It is not so, it was not so," said Mr. Fox. "Oh, Mr. Fox, then I dreamed I opened that door, and hanging there were bodies of young women and skeletons, and some of them still had blood on their dresses, and there was blood on the floor. It was horrible." "It is not so, nor was not so. God forbid it should ever be so," said Mr. Fox. "And then I dreamed I ran back down the gallery and to the end where there's a window, Mr. Fox, and I saw you, Mr. Fox, coming through the gate dragging a young woman." "It is not so, it was not so. God forbid it should ever be so," said Mr. Fox. "Mr. Fox, I hid myself. In my dream you came through the door, dragging this young woman, and then you were looking for her ring and trying to get it off, and you pulled and you tugged and you cursed and you swore, and then you pulled out your sword and you cut off her hand." "It is not so, it was not so. God forbid it should ever be so," said Mr. Fox, and he would have said more, but Lady Mary leaped up and cried, "But it is so, and it was so, for hand and ring I have to show," and she threw it at Mr. Fox, and it landed right in his lap. Her brothers and her friends leaped up. With swords in hand they cut him into 1,000 pieces. And that, as they say, is that.